All right, welcome back to the YTP Mini, and the roles have reversed. I'm going to be your host today, and you're going to be the guest. I'm BJ.
I'm Jess.
And we're ready to bring it.
All right, what are you bringing?
I'm bringing my wife, ultra runner, badass, to her first 100-miler in Tahoe in 2020.
You are bringing me there, and you're probably going to be bringing me home, too. So what do you want to know?
I want to know, because this has been an interesting process. I think we were talking about it last year, 100-mile, 200-milers, because I like to plant the seeds just like you do for me. And you were like, I don't know, we'll see if it feels right. And in our last YTP Mini, you were talking about that you're going to crush it in whatever terms you see fit, not what others' expectations are. So you had that intention, you're going to crush it. You hadn't been accepted into the Tahoe yet, but yet every conversation you had around this house was the words of, yeah, when I'm going, or when it happens, and when I begin training, and everything was acting as if it already happened. So what now? How do you feel now that you've been accepted into the Tahoe 100-miler?
How do I feel? Well, I knew that I was going to get in. And I knew that I was going to be doing this when I texted my friend about a year ago and asked her if she wanted help pacing at the Tahoe Rim 100, because I had found out that she just got in. And as much as I didn't want to ask her if she needed help pacing, I just knew I needed to do that. And that's just tuning into that inner compass, tuning into our heart. And the heart, it sounds so lovely, right? Like, tune into your heart, live from your heart, let your heart be your master, love all beings, do things in this world that benefit all beings. And that sounds all lovely. But the heart also asks you to do crazy shit and shit that scares you. And that's what it takes to keep the heart open, is to walk up to, what you fear and face it, and realize that when you do that, it will cease to trouble you anymore. And so I knew the whole time. And then, of course, when I remember waiting for her at the 50-mile mark last year, and the sun was starting to go down, and just the excitement and the fear, which we know have the same physiological response, like feeling all of that in anticipation of her coming, and having like little weak voices in my head that are like, maybe she'll drop at 50 and you won't have to go into the night. And I knew, that's just noise, because that's what the mind does. It's just noise. And that experience that I had with her was really monumental, not because I was pushing through fear that evening, but because I felt so completely calm and in total joy, even though my body wasn't showing up for me. And we go into that on that podcast that we did last July. So anyway, the interesting thing is that, so I've known, the mind has known, I've been feeling into doing visualizations. I've been doing this for a while now, right? Like, I knew I was going to get in. So the interesting thing was when you showed me that I got in and I saw the email yesterday, I felt like, for the lack of a better word, like sick. And I felt all these emotions. Like, I felt like I was going to cry. I felt like I was going to laugh. And I felt weak, like into my fingers. That was a surprise. Because I'm like, that's so interesting, because the
reaction was a surprise.
Yeah, the visceral reaction was a surprise. But that's just the human having her reaction. And I love that about her, right? She's just having her reaction. But it was also like, I loved that reaction because I haven't had that since I signed up for my first Ironman in 2008. And I remember hitting that registration button and feeling the same thing, weak in my fingers, feeling a little sick, feeling like out of focus with my eyes. Anyway, so I was journaling about it at Steady State yesterday, and I wanted to, because I was still feeling it. It hadn't gone away yet. So I wanted to like really capture what it was. And it was this pit. It was this really deep pit in the center of my being. And it was right in between my power and my fear. It was right in between my solar plexus and my sacral chakra. Right on the edge of power and fear. It was, I mean, and that's amazing. That's beautiful. That's exactly what this race is shaping up to be, right on the edge of what I fear and what I am so incredibly powerful about in my life. So I thought that that was interesting. And watching the human and watching the thoughts and being like, you're so funny. Like, what are all these thoughts when you knew the whole time you're going to do it? And then I woke up in the middle of the night last night and woke up and had this realization, like, you're running 100 miles on July 18th. You're going to die. Like, this is awful. And I had this feeling of dread. And I was like, again, so funny. You knew the whole time that you were going to get in. So what is this all about? And I laid back in bed and I went to the start of the race because I have this amazing information now because I know at the start of the race where it is, what that looks like, what the trees look like, what the parking lot looks like. So I just kind of put myself at the start of the race. And the feeling of dread then turned into that feeling right in the center of fear and power at the start of anything big, right? Like whether it's a 5K or an Ironman or whatever it may be. And I rested into that and I just relaxed. And it's not that, like the thoughts, they went away pretty quick because I wasn't feeding them. And I've practiced not feeding thoughts like that for a long time. It doesn't mean that they're not going to come into your awareness. It means, what are you going to do once they're there? Are you going to water the seeds or not water the seeds? So I didn't water the seeds, and I watered the seeds of, just being at the starting line of something really epic, and, went back into rest and slept last night. So when on that podcast that Ask the YTs, I said, my idea of crushing the race was mastering, all these moments. And so I've already had opportunities to move myself towards my crushing this goal. And I feel like I've already crushed those moments, and not crushed by making things go away or trying to make things different, but to resting into not only the deep spiritual truth of who I am, but also the beauty of the fragility of the human and just loving her exactly where she is. And the thing is that bringing those two things together, that's where the mastery is. It's not about trying to make something not happen or push a thought away or not being fearful. It's just, those things don't have much of a hold on me anymore, so I can shift pretty easy and I can rest into it. But if you can't rest into it and you can't shift easily, then just allow whatever it is to be there, which is what I did. I just allowed whatever it was that was there to be there. And you just kind of rested into this vision and this feeling of that excitement of race morning, and I was able to, it just kind of shifted over pretty quick and I went back to sleep.
So if someone's battling that same, maybe it's not a race, but they wake up at night and it's something consistent, right? Because we see that a lot. What are the tools, what is one thing they can do at night? Like you shifted to the race, but if they're having thoughts of like, I got to do this at work, or I've got a big day tomorrow with the kids and picking them up, like what can they do in the middle of the night?
Well, it's, you got to start attuning to the truth of who you are. Calm, power, love, joy, light, wisdom, peace, knowledge. Like, that's who you truly are. So we got to attune to that. So meditation, starting a daily meditation practice, which is just in the essence of what it means to be a human, will allow your parasympathetic nervous system to have more robustness in your life, which is going to help you feel calm. Because if you're waking up and you're having, and I've been there, like I've so been there, and nothing changed it. Nothing changed it until I started meditating. Until I started to tame the mind, attune to who I truly am through a daily meditation practice. Because shifting, you guys, change doesn't happen. It's not going to happen in the thoughts. Sustainable change is going to happen on a cellular level. It's a state of being. So as you attune to calmness, as you attune to feeling good, so how you feel is direct evidence to how aligned you are with your truth. So the better you feel, the more aligned you are with who you truly are, because who you truly are is joy, it's peace, it's love, it's calmness, it's wisdom, it's knowledge, it's light, it's power, it's all of those things that give us confidence, that allow us to trust without even having to trust. So if we're feeling panicked, if we're feeling fearful, if we're feeling angry, if we're feeling these things, they are not wrong. They're just evidence of the layers that are in between where we sit now and the truth of who we are.
The misalignment.
Yeah.
Right? You're either aligned or misaligned.
Yeah. So I was just talking to somebody about this. And the thing is with athletes is that we're so good at trying. We're so good at like, give me those techniques and I'm going to put them to work. But I believe that athletes, the majority of athletes, actually what we need to practice is backing away from the work, backing away from trying, back away from it, and rest into calmness. Rest into a relaxing breath exercise. Breathe in for a count of 2. Breathe out for a count of 4. So in the middle of the night, I'm not saying there's nothing you can do. In the middle of the night, do that. Breathe in for a count of 2. Breathe out for a count of 4. Those thoughts are going to battle for their life. You breathe in for a count of 2. You breathe out for a count of 4. And I think the biggest thing and message that I hope everyone hears, but I'll probably repeat it, and every other teacher will repeat it for another million times, is that release the battle. Don't fight the thoughts. The battle is like wishing that you didn't feel the way you were feeling. Right? So if we
wishing
spend
for
time...
the way you're feeling versus focusing on how you want to feel.
Yeah, how do you want to feel? Exactly. Are you busying yourself with trying not to feel the way you don't want to feel? Or are you focusing yourself on feeling the way you want to feel? So I focused on feeling the way I want to feel. I'm not afraid of that fear and excitement at the starting line. I'm not afraid of that. That's exciting. That's fuel. I like that. So I'm not afraid of that. So I just rested into how I want to feel about it. Knowing that, and not battling and not being upset, but knowing that I live in this human body and there's going to be thoughts of like, am I going to be able to do the weekly mileage that is going to be necessary for me to finish this race? Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
How do I want to feel?
Right.
I want to feel confident. I want to feel beyond doubt. And the thing is that the basis of this entire experience is that I have no doubt. If we're going to look at the cellular like truth, I have no doubt. I was talking to you about this yesterday, like when I told my family, and they just come right back at me immediately with like no doubt statements. Of course you're going to do it. You can do anything you set your mind to. And that is a reflection. So I can say, oh, the people around me are so supportive, and they are. Or I can say their lack of doubt is a direct reflection of my lack of doubt. They are mirroring me. Now they'll mirror me in any way that I want them to mirror me. So if I want to focus on like, oh, I don't know, then my mother would be like, oh, I hope you can do this. Are you sure you're ready? But instead, my 86-year-old mother's like, of course you can do it. All capital letters, emojis, and all this stuff. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that you've already done this. That's what she said to me. And so that's a direct reflection to me. So I'll pay attention to that.
And the words.
And I'm not going to pay attention to the middle of the night thought of you're going to die out there.
Right. And the story you're going to tell. Like you've already started the story, but the story you continue to tell is all about how you're going to come across that finish line.
Oh, the story that I'm going to get to tell after this. And I'm writing it every day. That's the thing, you guys. BJ, you say this too. Like, write your story. Rewrite your story if you don't like it. Like, I'm writing the story of this. I'm not waiting for this to happen. I'm writing the story in co-creation with the superconscious mind, which we also refer to as the universe. Here's another big piece of this path is like, now I can't just like rest here and be like, I'm beyond doubt. Like, I'm going to be getting up. I'm going to be practicing sleep deprivation. I'm going to be running on tired legs. I'm
running
going
in
to
the
be
night.
having full human experience with this. So you got to show up and you got to act. So surrender, calm, peace. That doesn't mean you don't act, right? Like we just watched Avatar yesterday, and they were acting. Like they were acting in the face of, you know, what they needed to show up for. So how are you going to train me for this?
Specifically, like the specifics, or just how?
I think what's moving through you.
The general feeling of how I've watched you train and how you move in training is we're going to get consistency back, right? You've been doing a lot of strength work, a lot of stability work, a lot of like, I guess, cleaning the house, I guess we could say. So now that you're gonna have that foundation, we're gonna start building you up consistently running. We're gonna get you running 6 out of 7 days a week. We're gonna supplement the running with swimming and walking and hiking, because there's plenty of opportunities for that. And we don't want you to get up to a high number too quickly. We're gonna take this slow. We want this work to absorb in your body. So a lot of it is gonna be what we've been doing, which is just go out and run at a conversation, easy pace, like we did on the trail on Trail Tuesdays, together out in Daly Ranch, where we're just moving along and we run and we walk and we hike and we stop and take photos. And, you know, we want to accumulate time, and we're going to steadily increase that time on your legs. However, as we begin to progress, I would say another 4 weeks of that right now, 5 weeks of that, we're going to start adding in strides at the end of your sessions. So almost every run, you're going to be super easy, not easy, but easy. A lot of easy walking, hiking, running on the trails. And then the last, 15, 20 minutes of these sessions, you're going to pick it up for anywhere between 20 and 60 seconds. Just really, it's not sprints. These aren't sprints. They're just quick leg turnovers. So we're getting your system fired up to feel that leg turnover at the end of long sessions. And this is like the sprinkling of the speed work, sprinkling of that ability to move faster. And so it resets, I feel that it resets the mind to be like, if you just did, 3.5 hours on the trails at easy to moderate pace, and then that last 10 minutes, you're sprinkling in 30 to 60 second strides. Like your mind is going to say, oh yeah, I can do this at the end of, I can turn over. So when you're in the race and you're to that point, 60, 70 miles in, and you're like, oh my, I can't even like lift my legs. Like for some reason, you know that you can lift your legs over. Like all it takes is that quick hit to jumpstart things. And it's like a spark. It's like a spark. You can get that little spark anytime you want. And that's what I feel the strides will work really well for you. We're also going to link together long sessions. So you'll have, let's just say, a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, where Friday you go, 3 hours. Saturday you go 6 hours. And then Sunday you hike for another 2 to 4 hours. Now you've got almost 10 to 12 hours in 3 days. And we'll continually build on that. But the important thing here is just to see how your body reacts. You individually, Jessica's body, at this point in time, how it reacts. I'm not going to give you a 6-month pre-laid out plan. That's impossible. Impossible, in this coach's opinion.
I think that sounds like a really great plan. So if somebody is just kind of starting their trail running or whatever, and 100 is in their view, what would you say to them for a recipe for success to getting there?
Slow. Start super slow. If you're not running at all, start to run. If you're not on the trails.
And how do you start to run?
You start with a walk run. You come all the way back to the basics. You go out and you walk for 10 minutes. Yeah. Then you walk for 20 minutes. Then you walk for 30 minutes. And then you build up to walking for an hour. That's good. Then we start combining 9 minutes of walking, 1 minute of running. And then you start to get that balance down to 5-5. And then you get that balance into where you're walking for 30 minutes and maybe running for 10 minutes. And you get to the point where you just start to run. Yeah. But I think the skill happens on the trails is actually being on the trail. Understanding that the intermittent walking, hiking, running, it's all
It's all there all
based
the time.
on terrain. It's not
Yeah.
based on any equation
It's
that we
like
do.
what I say to you the other day. It's like mountain biking on your feet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're like fast, 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 and then you're kind of cruising. But the difference is there's no coasting when you're running. There's no coasting.
No.
It's every step. And I think I loved how you just described the physical, like the scales start to tip. You do, the running and the walking, and then all of a sudden it's more running and walking. So if we were to say that the running is the high vibe life, and the walking is the low vibe life. Not that one is less than the other. What I'm saying is, the more we focus on the high vibrational life, the more we focus on the truth of who we are, because we were never taught how to focus on the truth of who we are. That eventually you don't really have to do much with the low vibration. Just notice when you're watering those seeds and expanding that in your life, and eventually what will happen is the scales will tip. And the high vibrational life will be that set point from which you live, so that when you're, beyond doubt about something and a thought comes in that says, you should be doubtful, you just realize that there's still a little bit of weight on the other side of that scale, but it doesn't have a hold on you anymore, and that you don't have to water it or believe it, and that you are a completely powerful being right now, not in the future. And that a life beyond limits is 100% within your grasp.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. It's the ego check a little bit too, going back to walking. But understand that if you don't walk and you don't pay attention to the body and slowly progress, and you injure yourself or have an overuse injury, then you're not running. So don't put yourself into that.
And isn't it
arena.
funny that the body will force you to slow down, when really the whole thing was you could have just slowed down to start, but instead you didn't, and then the body will slow. So either way, you're going to slow down.
Absolutely.
I say just slow down.
Right. Just slow down.
Just slow down. Like, this is a body temple,
right.
And it's you got to water it, you got to feed it, you got to empty it, you got to it gets old, it eventually dies, like. If we're doing big things like this, like Ironman or 5Ks or whatever they are, 100-mile races, like, listen to this. There is an incredible inherent wisdom in the body, and it's always organizing towards health. And I am all ears, open, listening. And that's why I love working with you, BJ, as a coach, is because we can pull back anytime and we can ramp up anytime. Yeah, that's awesome.
So let's wrap this up.
Okay.
So if you're out there, and let's go back to what Jess manifested, because be careful what you manifest.
Yeah.
Be careful what you think about. Jess right here is the example of putting all your attention and focus into unwavering faith and belief that she would be picked in the lottery for the Tahoe 100, and she was. And there was no sense of doubt at all. So be careful what you guys think about. Whatever it is you want to achieve, bring all of your awareness, consciousness, attention to it, and set forth on your journey to accomplishing the thing that you truly want, that aligns.